Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Michael and I'm going to be taking you behind the scenes of how applications actually run in production. Today's topic, config maps and secrets. So when you deploy your application, it's often necessary for you to be able to set certain configurations for your application. If you're running an application and while building and writing the code of the application, you specify the database connection string within your application code. That is called hard coding. And when you're writing production code or any type of code, best practices states that you should not hard code some of these configurations variables. Why? Because if you need to make changes to that configuration variable, you have to go into your code and make changes within the code, and we don't want that. So it's easier to set an environmental variable and then set that environmental variable as a configuration variable within your Kubernetes environment. And Kubernetes provides a way for you to manage your environmental variables for your Kubernetes applications. That's done using your ConfigMap objects. So your config map. So with your config. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Michael and I'm going to be taking you behind the scenes of how applications actually run in production. Today's topic, config maps and secrets. When you build an application, it is often important for you to specify some variables that need to be used by the application. For instance, if you write an application, you might need the application to connect to a database. So you can impute the database connection string within your code, but this is often a bad practice. You don't want to have your environmental variables hard-coded into your application code, because if you need to make changes to that environmental variable, you then need to make changes to your application, and nobody wants that. The way to do this is to specify your variables as environmental variables. And if you're running in a Kubernetes cluster, Kubernetes provides a way for you to specify environmental variables using the config map object. With your config map object, you can specify your variables as configurations in your config map and attach those config maps to your deployment. And that way, your deployment is then aware of that configuration and can use it in your application. If you have sensitive configurations that you don't want to be exposed to just anybody, you can encode them in your Kubernetes environment using the Kubernetes secrets object. The Kubernetes secrets object helps you to bring more security into managing environmental variables, especially when they are sensitive variables. However, the Kubernetes secrets doesn't necessarily encrypt these variables. If you want encryption, you're going to have to use the Kubernetes external secrets and use something like maybe key value store, like KMS, Key Vault, or Vault, which are external third-party tools. But within Kubernetes itself, the object provided for you to manage sensitive data is a Kubernetes secrets. I hope that makes sense. I'll see you in the next one.